How will the deaths of these hostages impact the ongoing calls for a ceasefire and hostage negotiations?
Every time we think that it couldn't get worse, it's getting worse. I've met with people who've been released, people who've been rescued, families of those who are still captive, and it's the same. When President Biden says we're going to hold Hamas responsible, we're going to hold them accountable, we're going to punish them, what does that mean? Because I don't see that in action. Of course, we're trying to rescue the hostages. Of course, we're trying to free them through negotiation. But let's not forget how all this started. There was relative peace between the two nations. There was no occupation. The border was crossed. People were kidnapped. People were killed. And it kicked off this very unfortunate and very tragic war. Right now, we're dealing with the aftermath of that initial assault. And we haven't come to any close approximation of a peace accord because they will not release the hostages. They will not cease violence. They don't understand what peace is about. In fact, they thrive off of violence. And that's the problem with Hamas and its evil origins.
So to what you're saying there, Biden has said that he does believe a ceasefire agreement is somewhere within reach. But clearly I hear you saying that's not the case right now, in your opinion. If it's not the case, how do we get closer to one?
Well, think about what's happened in recent times where we said we want the hostages released. We want to stop the violence. And yet there's been no actual negotiations because they don't want that. The reason they use human shields, the reason they started this to begin with is because they thrive off of war. Hamas is not even germane unless they're at war. If they're causing strife, even if it's for their own people, they're actually doing their job. They believe that Israel should not exist. It's in their charter. The elimination of all Jews is in their charter. You cannot create peace with an organization like that.
Yeah. So what does Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu do? Is he really doing enough to get the hostages home? Because I think there are some that would argue clearly not.
Yeah. So how do you negotiate with people who are purely evil? People who want to eliminate your people? How do you negotiate with those people? Because from what I understand, the offer was peace if you give back the hostages and you stop violence. I don't know what else you could do. You're not going to give up your own country. You're not going to give your own people up. So where do we go from here? Because it seems pretty straightforward. Netanyahu is trying to rescue the hostages because they're not being released, clearly. I don't know what else you can do. I haven't been inside those doors where they're negotiating. But my understanding of what the demands on for both sides, like President Biden said, it sounds like it's close. But quite frankly, I don't think Hamas wants peace.
Before I let you go, I'm curious in this. Will Congress and lawmakers like you change in any way how you're handling sending weapons and aid to Israel?
So if everybody in Israel laid down their arms, they would be annihilated. If everybody in the Hamas organization laid down their arms, there would be peace. I don't think that by giving no weapons to Israel, that's going to solve the problem. I really don't. If I thought that Hamas would all of a sudden be peaceful because we didn't give weapons to Israel, then I would I would change my mind. But let's face it, Hamas is there to annihilate Israelis, to annihilate the country of Israel. Without weaponry, without their ability to protect themselves and defeat evil, they're done.
It still feels like we're stuck in the mud and we can't get any movement forward. And that's the hardest part of this story, especially for a lot of families. Really appreciate your time, Congressman. Of course, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Rich McCormick. Thank you.
Thank you.